hari umuntu ugihagarara ku nyama muri iki gihe koko. Buretse nitaba umukiriya. Kiriya biteze.
Ariko tayo aho kusoreza imyenda wibereye kuri telefone kweli.
Ariko ni kuwa mbere nawe wagwa. Wango uracyari wose. Icyo nakubwiraga wa muntu niko ye. Umuntu w'umugabo ku bukwe bwe akambara kositimu itukura iciye n'amaboko noneho. None se uyisuza?
Si wombwiye ngo ngwe muse.
Ntabwo ari ibi navugaga.
Kuwa mbere kanda akanyenyeri 345 akanyenyeri 2 urwego maze nawe ugwemo. Wikwisondeka.
A very good evening to you all and welcome to the English News Bulletin here on Rwanda Television. We are glad to have you with us. Let's begin with the top stories of the day. The Minister of Finance and Economic Planning reassures Rwandans that Rwanda's economy will not be affected by the sanctions imposed by foreign countries due to insecurity in the Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo. The Central Bank of Rwanda has announced that Rwanda's economy has maintained strong economic growth observed across economic sectors. On the international scene on Wednesday, the President of the United States, Donald Trump, stated that he had a productive phone conversation with his Ukrainian counterpart, Volodymyr Zelensky. My name is Olive Nete. It's always a privilege to have you on board. Now let's kick off tonight's edition. The Minister of Finance and Economic Planning reassures Rwandans that Rwanda's economy will not be affected by the sanctions imposed by foreign countries due to insecurity in the Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo. He made this statement while announcing the figures of the country's gross domestic product for the year 2024. Enora Gladys has the report.
The Minister of Finance and Economic Planning, Yusuf Murangwa, and the Director General of the National Institute of Statistics, Ivan Murenzi, highlighted Rwanda's economic growth in 2024. Overall, the gross domestic product expanded by more than 2 trillion Rwandan francs compared to 2023. The service and agriculture sectors were key drivers of this growth. However, the Director General of the National Institute of Statistics, Ivan Murenzi, noted that GDP declined in the later quarters of 2024 compared to the earlier ones.
If I start with the quarterly numbers, as I mentioned, the overall growth for quarter 4 was 8%. Now, when you break it down, agriculture grew at 3% and industry 7%, whereas services 11%. So what I presented mainly was the annual growth. But these are specific growth numbers. Now, there are some details breakdowns which we have, I think, by now uploaded or soon uploaded on our website. In terms of, I think the question was saying we started with 9.7, 9.8, then 8.1 and 8 as by the quarters, quarter 1, quarter 2. The first thing I would say is that there's no expectation that as quarters proceed in the year, growth should be going higher. Growth can vary depending on various factors. Actually, if you look at 2023 itself, quarter 1 we had 9.2, then quarter 2 we had 6.3, and then quarter 3 7.5, and then quarter 4 10%. So quarters can vary. But specifically for 2024, the high growth in quarter 1 and quarter 2 would be mainly attributed to agriculture. As I mentioned, season A performed very well, substantially very well, with a growth of 8%. But season B, even though we had a growth of 2%, it wasn't the same level as as season A, and therefore that had an effect in terms of the quarters 3 and 4.
Despite these challenges, Rwanda's economy has continued to grow, providing confidence that it will remain resilient against the sanctions imposed by some countries. The Minister of Finance and Economic Planning, Yusuf Murangwa, emphasized that the strategies put in place by Rwanda will protect its economy from potential disruptions.
From the perspective of the Minister of Finance, I would say 3 things. One, we are following up very closely. So far, we've not seen anything very dramatic. The development cooperation that has been affected so far, I would say, is on the downside, so we don't see anything major at the moment. But we are following up very closely, but we're also putting in place measures to make sure that any gaps that we see that are critical are covered by the government efforts. And we're optimistic that we should be able to navigate this space because we have a very strong foundation. Our economy is strong. Our government programs are very strong. So we believe it should be okay. And if anything happens that is out of the normal, we will update you. You said something very interesting from the central bank, that other factors constant. In reality, they are never constant. The last so many years, 10, 15, 20 years, they've never been constant. And we've done well in that environment.
Data from National Institute of Statistics shows that Rwanda's GDP in 2024 was 18,785 billion Rwandan francs, up from 16,626 billion Rwandan francs in 2023. The agriculture sector contributed 25% to the total GDP, the industrial sector 21%, and the service sector 48%. In 2024, the GDP grew by 8.9%, following an increase of 9.7% in the first quarter, 9.8% in the second quarter, 8.1% in the third quarter, and 8% in the fourth quarter. Notably, agricultural output grew by 5%, with food crop production increasing by 5%, while export crop production declined by 1%. Industrial output grew by 10%, with mining and quarrying increasing by 12%, construction by 12%, and manufacturing by 7%. Service sector output grew by 10%, driven by information and communication services, 25% growth. Wholesale and retail trade, 18% growth. Transport services, 9% growth. Hospitality, hotels and restaurants, 11% growth. Healthcare services, 15% growth.
In order for the detailed reports now, still on Rwanda's economic sector, the Central Bank of Rwanda has announced that Rwanda's economy has maintained strong economic growth observed across all economic sectors. This economy, according to the governor of the Central Bank, is expected to continue performing well in the further coming years, with a growth of 7.0% in 2025 and 2026. William Evans has more on this.
The announcement was made while Honorable Solaya Hakuziyaremye presented the Monetary Policy and Financial Stability Statement of March 2025 that evaluated the economic and financial developments of 2024 and provided an outlook for 2025 and beyond, saying Rwanda's economy has maintained a strong economic growth.
The financial sector continued to grow at double-digit level, growing by 20.6% in terms of assets that have reached 13 trillion Rwandan franc by end of 2024, up from 11 trillion a year prior.
Despite the stable growth of Rwanda's financial sector, the central bank says it continues to monitor emerging risks that could cause challenges to the financial sector, including but not limited to climate change and cybersecurity.
We are mindful of emerging risks that may actually cause challenges to our financial sector. The first one being climate change and the impact of climate change on our financial sector. And in that regard, as central bank, we have issued legal instrument to assist financial institutions in their disclosure and reporting on climate-related risks. This was a directive issued in November 2024. We continue to evaluate the progress in implementing the National Sustainable Finance Roadmap by all financial institutions. And we continued also to assist and work with the financial sector to comply with our guidelines for climate and environmental risk management. The guidelines had been issued in 2023. And we also developed an action plan to enhance sustainability efforts while we continue to be an active member of the network of central banks and financial supervisors for the greening of the financial system. Another key emerging risk that we continue to monitor is cybersecurity, with an ongoing diagnostic review of maturity levels of financial institutions in terms of cyber resilience. We continue to develop regulatory frameworks to enhance that cyber resilience, while a comprehensive financial sector risk assessment focusing on cybersecurity is being conducted as well.
In 2024, real GDP growth averaged 9.2% in the first 3 quarters, following 8.2% in 2023 and 2022. This rate exceeds the projected annual growth rate of 8.3% for the year and was observed across all economic sectors. The economy is expected to continue performing well in the forthcoming years, with a growth of 7.0% in 2025 and 2026. William Evans, RwandaTV News.
Thank you, Evans, for the detailed report. Now to regional security matters. President Paul Kagame and his DR Congo counterpart Felix Tshisekedi and the Emir of Qatar, Sheikh Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani, held talks in Doha on Tuesday, March 18th, as part of efforts to solve the crisis in the Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo. According to the 3 countries' joint statement, the trilateral summit welcomed the progress made in the Rwanda and Nairobi processes, as well as the joint EAC SADC summit held in Dar es Salaam, Tanzania on February 8th, said the statement published by the Qatari Foreign Ministry. Dr. Eric Ndushabandi, political analyst, finds this as a promising progress towards a lasting solution to this DRC crisis.
Byari bisa nkaho byananiranye ndetse tubona imyitwarire y'abayobozi ba Kinshasa igenda ihinduka.
The Rwanda and Nairobi processes appear to be failing, and the DRC government stands on engaging in dialogue with the M23 to address the root causes of the insecurity crisis in Eastern DRC was shifting. The involvement of Qatar introduces a new mediator into the equation. As a nation that gained the independence around 1971, Qatar has established itself as a global player with a strong economy and a neutral, open diplomatic approach. Qatar has played a role in facilitating dialogue in complex conflicts, including mediation efforts in Sudan and attempts to address the Israel-Hamas crisis. Unlike Belgium or European powers with historical ties to the region, Qatar enters this mediation with no prior affiliations, reinforcing its neutrality. The impact of Qatar's involvement will become clearer based on how the DRC government responds to the Rwanda and Nairobi processes. From Rwanda's perspective, there is some expectations that this dialogue will bring renewed commitment to the established peace frameworks, potentially revitalizing the Rwanda process.
Tukabona mu misi zaza hari imbaraga nshya zibonetse mu kiganiro cya Rwanda.
Now to other matters. On Wednesday, the Groupe Scolaire Sainte-Famille in Nyarugenge district hosted Nawe Wagera Kure, dubbed as You Too Can Go Far, campaign, an initiative aimed at inspiring students to pursue their education with dedication, recognizing that education is a cornerstone of national development. Speaking to primary and secondary school students, Bernard Makuza shared his joy in reconnecting with the school where he completed his primary education. He reflected on his career in high-level government positions, including serving as the Prime Minister for 12 years and later as the President of the Senate. He also mentioned that he is currently engaged in small-scale farming and livestock rearing. Makuza also emphasized that success is within reach for everyone, provided they are committed and disciplined. He encouraged students to uphold good behavior and work hard to achieve their goals. Dr. Nelson Barushimana, the Director General of the Rwanda Basic Education Board, underscored the significance of the Nawe Wagera Kure campaign, which will run for a week. He noted that the initiative plays an important role in motivating students to excel academically and reach their full potential. Founded in 1913 as a primary school, Sainte Famille expanded in 2009 to become a groupe scolaire, introducing lower secondary education, and today the school serves 2,463 students across nursery, primary and secondary levels. To more news on the health sector, on Wednesday at King Faisal Hospital, a new method for treating patients with mental health issues, including severe depression, was officially launched. This method involves the use of a drug called ketamine, administered through injection. During this event, which was attended by the mental health professionals, Dr. Augustin Sendegeya, the Chief Medical Officer at the King Faisal Hospital, explained that this treatment approach using ketamine is used as anesthetics intended for patients who have not responded to conventional mental health treatments. The Ministry of Health clarified that ketamine treatment is relatively new worldwide and that Rwanda has taken the lead in implementing it to support individuals struggling with mental health conditions. The Minister of State in the Ministry of Health, Dr. Ivan Butera, emphasized the importance of seeking treatment for mental health issues.
We're very happy that we have reached this point. This is just the beginning. We want it to grow, be it here, but in other places in Rwanda, because the demand is huge. If you just do the math, people who might need this and who the people that are receiving this, there's a big mismatch. So we'll work together to make sure that we bridge that gap and that everyone gets access to treatment that will help them achieve their full potential. As the government of Rwanda, we are happy to pioneer and take up new innovations so that we help people live their best lives. And the rest will follow. We'll see how to integrate this within our broader health system, and anything else that will come, we'll put it up as well. We hope we're going to see some data that will come from it. There's your natural, normal, observational data that you have, but we'd like to see it translated into research papers and tools that can, influence changes, be it here locally but globally.
The King Faisal Hospital stated that ketamine treatment has been available for the past 6 months. In addition to providing immediate relief, the drug also offers long-term benefits. It is administered in phases ranging from 3 to 6 sessions. The hospital is currently in discussions with health insurance providers, including RSSB, to ensure that patients covered by the Rwanda Social Security Board and Mutuelle de Santé can access this treatment through their insurance plans. Moving ahead, in Rwamagana district, a soap powder factory owned by Chinese investors has been officially launched with an investment worth over 12 billion Rwandan francs. Senora Gladys has more on this.
The value platform industry is located in the industrial zone of Rwamagana district. Zhang Liyang, the CEO of Transfer Group Daily Necessities Co. Limited, explained that they decided to invest in this area to improve the living standards of the people in Eastern Province. The Executive Secretary of the Eastern Province, Dr. Jeanne Nyirahabimana, appreciated the partnership between the investors and the Eastern Province. This is a factory that has been added to this area, increasing investment, and it is a factory that will also create employment opportunities in this region. As you heard, that over 300 people will be employed. The Chinese ambassador to Rwanda, Wang Zuekun, stated that this investment is a sign of the cooperation between his country and Rwanda in promoting the welfare of the people in both nations.
A bilateral partnership between China and Rwanda and the guidance of the two heads of our two countries, we have developed our comprehensive strategic partnership, and the investment here in Rwanda is among the top environment of the business, and we would like to deepen the economic and trade and investment partner. So it's quite encouraged to invest in this province to deepen the relations and the bilateral cooperation. We hope it will achieve fruitful success for this investment.
The factory has the capacity to process 24,000 tons of soap powder annually. It is the 18th factory to be established in the industrial zone of Rwamagana, which spans over 50 hectares.
Thank you, Enora, for the details. Now moving ahead, the plenary session of the Chamber of Deputies has approved 7 draft laws concerning tax and custom duties reforms. The Ministry of Finance and Economic Planning explains that these reforms aim to accelerate development and increase the contribution of taxes to the national economy from 14.6% to 22% by 2035. Among the proposed bills is one that introduces a tax on production, a value-added tax, a custom duty on gasoline and diesel and vehicles intended for road maintenance, as well as duties on gasoline and diesel. There is also a bill introducing an environmental tax on imported goods packaged in plastic, a law establishing a tourism tax on accommodation, and a tax on purchases. Some of the expected tax changes include an increase in the withholding tax on lottery and gambling winnings from 15% to 25%. The value-added tax rate has also increased from 5% to 10% on the additional value. The tourism tax on accommodation will be set at 3% of the amount paid or to be paid for lodging, excluding VAT. There is also a plan to double revenues from tourism activities, increasing from $620 million to $1.1 billion. The Minister of State in the Ministry of Finance and Economic Planning in charge of National Treasury, Godfrey Kabera, assured that these tax reforms will not cause price increases for goods. These draft laws were developed as part of the tax reform agenda to implement the Vision 2050 and medium-term strategies for self-reliance in strengthening the second phase of the government's National Strategy for Transformation, NST2. Still on local matters, the African School of Governance, headquartered in Rwanda, has signed a cooperation agreement with the Liu Kuan Yew School of Public Policy, the Public Policy School of the National University of Singapore, named after Lee Kuan Yew. The signing ceremony took place on Wednesday at the headquarters of the LKYSPP in Singapore, where the African School of Governance delegation is currently at a business trip. The signing was also attended by the High Commissioner of Rwanda to Singapore, Jean de Dieu Wihanganye. The agreement outlines collaboration between the two institutions in several areas, including joint research, enhancing teaching methodologies, and developing educational materials.
Africa has a governance challenge and a governance deficit. And so the African School of Governance is a response to that deficit. And by collaborating with a school like, Lee Kuan Yew, which has been transformative for public policy education in Asia, we bring value to Africa through collaborations such as with LKY. And so we'll be able to fill that governance capacity gap much more effectively because we have partnerships with very credible, experienced institutions like LKY. What I see as our long-term vision is Africa, ASG, the African School of Governance, doing for Africa what LKY has done for Asia. I see that very clearly as the vision, and it's going to happen. Very positive impressions, lovely campus, very friendly and welcoming team, starting from Dean Danekwa, who was present at my lecture this evening, Francesco Mancini, with whom I signed the MOU. Carmen and so many other staff have been so welcoming to us. And so we have a very positive impression, very keen students as well, and very sound faculty. So LKY it's really, it's an outlier in many ways.
That is Kingsley, the president of the African School of Governance, and furthermore, the agreement specifies that the LKY will offer ASG advisory services, particularly in the recruitment and placement of faculty members to teach at the institution. Following the signing of the agreement, the president of the African School of Governance also highlighted the anticipated benefits of partnering with this prestigious institution in the field of governance and public policy education, both in Asia and globally. To the education sector, the university leaders and representatives from the African universities are in Kigali discussing what can be done to improve the quality of education to the required standard. Among the topics discussed is how the curriculum in universities aligns with the skills needed in the labor market. The participants in this conference agree that universities in Africa need high-quality education, as it is the key solution to securing a bright future for the continent.
As education leaders, saying it's not enough to get a tick on the box that you've produced students who go through the 3 years and graduate and leave your doors, right? And it's not even enough that they get a job, which is what we were so proud of. But who are these people that we're putting out into society? If, I remember telling this person, why are you coming to school looking like this? You don't smell good. Have you showered? Who raised you? And the answer was, no one raised me. And therefore, it is now, in addition to good education, learning outcomes, and education outcomes, and employment outcomes, we also have to do a little bit of raising. And it's our duty to raise well.
And that is Nathalie Munyamenda, the CEO of the Kepler University. And moving ahead, the Director General of the Higher Education Council, Dr. Edward Cardozi, emphasized that the main goal is for universities across Africa and beyond to collaborate with institutions offering technical, vocational, and practical training to strengthen the quality of education. The Africa Universities Summit is a conference focused on the development of universities in Africa, taking place in Rwanda over 3 days, currently on its second day. The summit aimed to ensure that universities play a role in the continent's development. Now, moving ahead, the results of a pilot project conducted in the Bugesera district on waste management, focusing on waste segregation before disposal, show promising potential for providing a sustainable solution to the issue of waste from households and other densely populated areas. This initiative, which has been running for 2 years, is a collaboration between the Ministry of Environment and the German Development Agency, GIZ, and the project encouraged local residents to segregate their waste before handling it over to entrepreneurs who process it into products such as fertilizers and other materials. After observing the positive outcomes of this approach, the districts of Muhanga and Rwamagana are set to implement this model as part of their ongoing environmental protection programs. Faustin Munyazikwiye, the Deputy Director General of the Rwanda Environment Management Authority, noted that the findings from this pilot project will assist the government and its partners in refining waste management practices and increasing waste to resource conversion efforts.
This pilot project, which was implemented in Bugesera, is going to be replicated in Muhanga and Rwamagana. But we got 3 reasons. One is that it's possible to do waste separation and revalorization of the waste. Second, we saw that a local or a private sector which is operating in the area of waste collection and revalorization in different corners of the country, they are able. What is remaining is just to boost them with capacity and financial resources so that they can do wonders. The third reason we got is that if it was possible here in Bugesera, it can be also replicated elsewhere in other districts with the guidance of the policy we have on sanitation, and also with the mobilization of different partners who supported this and who are in this sector. We can also replicate this in other districts.
And this waste collection program from households and public spaces has significantly improved sanitation in various regions of the country through early waste segregation has yet to be widely implemented in many areas.
ngewe icyo mbaza ni kimwe koko hari umuntu ugihagarara ku nyama muri iki gihe koko uretse nitaba umukiriya we kiriya biteze
ariko tayo aho gusoreza imyenda wibereye kuri telefone kweli
ariko ni kuwa mbere nawe wagwamo wango uracyari wose icyo nakubwiraga wa muntu niko ye umuntu w'umugabo ku bukwe bwe akambara kositimu itukura iciye n'amaboko noneho none se uyisuza
si wombwiye ngo ngwe muse
ntabwo ari ibi navugaga
kuwa mbere kanda akanyenyeri 345 akanyenyeri 2 urwego maze nawe ugwemo. Wikwisondeka.
You're still watching our TV news. Now to the international page. Nigeria continues to face political challenges after the country's president declared a state of emergency in the oil-rich Rivers state and also dismissed the governor of that state. His deputy was also suspended along with lawmakers representing the state in the National Assembly for a period of 6 months. In a message broadcast on the national TV on Tuesday, the president stated that he had received reports of insecurity caused by militants destroying pipelines and oil facilities, and that the governor had done nothing to address the situation. He said that they could no longer ignore such issues and made the decision to take action. And meanwhile, legislators and politicians who disagree with the government have continued to argue that President Tinubu's decision is illegal. Now, in the United States, on Wednesday, the President of the United States, Donald Trump, stated that he had a productive phone conversation with the Ukrainian counterpart, Volodymyr Zelensky, and expressed hope that it would lead to progress in ending the war between Ukraine and Russia. Trump mentioned that the hour-long conversation focused on his previous talks with the Russian President Vladimir Putin on Tuesday, aiming to reconcile Ukraine's and Russia's interests in order to end the war. And these stories brings us to the end of tonight's bulletin. But before we leave, a reminder of the top stories that made the edition. The Minister of Finance and Economic Planning reassures that Rwanda's economy will not be affected by the sanctions imposed by foreign countries due to insecurity in the Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo. The Central Bank of Rwanda has announced that Rwanda's economy has maintained strong economic growth observed across all economic sectors. On the international scene on Wednesday, the President of the United States, Donald Trump, stated that he had a productive phone conversation with his Ukrainian counterpart, Volodymyr Zelensky. And this marks the end of today's bulletin. Thank you for joining us. On behalf of the entire news team, we wish you a productive week ahead. Stay safe and stay informed.